It is a cardiovascular system tutorial presented by the SchrDbb with reference Atlas of Histology and Functional and Clinical Correlation by Dongmei Cui. So here we are going to see histology tutorial of the cardiovascular system. So we are going to start with the introduction of the cardiovascular system. Generally, we need to know that the cardiovascular system is made up of the heart and then the blood vessels. And then generally the blood vessels are divided into the arterial system, the capillary system, and the venous system. Now, all these blood vessels are going to be divided into two main circulation. You have the systemic circulation and then you have the pulmonary circulation. Now we need to know that when the arterials, the capillaries, are going to give nutrients to the different tissues of the body, they produce interstitial fluid, and that interstitial fluid is being carried by the lymphatic circulation. And the lymphatic circulation is made up of the lymphatic capillaries, the lymphatic vessels, and the lymphatic ducts. So we start with the first one, which is the heart. The heart is divided into four chambers. You have the atria and the ventricle, and each atria and ventricle are divided into left and right. So you have left, right atria, and you have the left and right ventricle. Now, the next one is that you have to know the thickness, the division of the heart based on the layers of the heart is going to be divided into endocardium, the myocardium, and the epicardium. The epicardium is the outermost layer of the heart, and it's also considered as a visceral pericardium. Just after the heart, we have now the parietal pericardium, which is separated from the visceral pericardium by the pericardial fluid. Now, we have now the circulation, the circulation of the heart that we're going to electrical conduction of the heart that we're going to see later. The next is the arterial system. You need to know the arterial system is going to be divided into large, medium, and small arteries with the arterioles. And all of them now, based on the thickness of the wall, the layers of the wall, is going to be divided into tunica intima, media, and externa or adventitia. Now, for the capillary system, we need to know that generally capillaries are divided into three main types. We have the continuous capillaries, the finistrated capillaries, and the discontinuous or the sinusoidal capillaries. The venous system is generally divided into the venous, the small, the medium, and the large veins. And then lastly, we have the lymphatic vascular system. Generally, we have the lymphatic vessels, the lymphatic capillaries, and the lymphatic ducts. Now, this is the circulation that we have. Generally, we have this. We have the pulmonary circulation, where blood is going to be transmitted from the right ventricle up to the lungs, which is going to come back into the left atrium. And then we have the systemic circulation, when blood is going to be transmitted from the left ventricle up to the different parts of the body, and then coming back to the right atrium. So this is a general diagram for the systemic and the pulmonary circulation. If you want to visualize all the elements of the systemic and pulmonary circulation, just pause and look at this diagram. Now, you have the schematic representation of the electric conduction of the heart. Now, in the schematic representation, you have the pacemaker of the heart generally is referred as the sino-atrial node, and that's what gives the rhythm of the heart. As the heart is going to contract at a rate of 60 to 10 to 100 beats per minute due to the sino-atrial node. Impulse are transmitted through the atrium into the atrioventricular node. Now, the atrioventricular node is going to transmit impulse to the bundle of His. The bundle of His is going to transmit impulse to the right and the left bundle branches. So this is the right bundle branch, the left bundle branch, which is going to transmit impulse now to the Purkinje fibers, which lie in the subendocardium, as we're going to see later. Now, so these are the layers of the heart. So the layers of the heart are just shown here. So you can visualize here. We have the So this first part of the layer of the heart is the endocardium. So the endocardium is the innermost part of the heart, which is close, which is in contact with blood. Now we need to generally know that what, just like you can just think the heart as being immodified blood vessels. Generally, the endocardium is a direct equivalent to the tunica intima of the blood vessels. The myocardium is a direct equivalent of the tunica media of the blood vessels, and the epicardium is direct equivalent to is equivalent to the tunica externa or adventitia of the blood vessel. Now, this is the endocardium. Endocardium is the innermost part of the heart, and that is one that contacts with the blood. Then you have the myocardium, which is made up of the muscular tissue and some connective tissues, and lastly we have the epicardium. But this one is there to show the endocardium. Now, generally, this is the myocardium. So for the myocardium, you can visualize here the cardiac cells. So the cardiac cells are being seen with their intercalated discs, and now the characteristics of the cardiac cells is that they are going to be branched, as you can see here, and then they have they are branched, and then they have one nuclei with the intercalated discs which connect the different heart cells together. Now you can also visualize here, these are the connective tissues here, and then the wide cells located in the connective tissues here are the fibroblast cells. Now this is the epicardium. So the epicardium, we can just consider it as a visceral pericardium. So because just outside the epicardium you have the parietal pericardium. So this is the epicardium here, and it is made up of connective tissues, as you can see here. Now the clinical correlation of the epicardium is a pleural pericardial effusion. Now pericardial effusion refers to excess fluid accumulation in the pericardial cavity. And where is the pericardial cavity? It is a cavity which is located between the visceral pericardium, which is also called the epicardium, and the parietal pericardium. So the fluid accumulation between the visceral and the parietal pericardium is referred to as the pericardial effusion, and hemopoietin is the presence of blood inside the pericardium. Now, here now is a Purkinje fiber system. Now, for the Purkinje fiber system, you need to know that the Purkinje fiber system are large modified cardiac muscle cells which play a role in the heart conduction system, and they are located in the subendocardium. You need to know that what the endocardium has three main layers. So let me just show it to you. So the endocardium has three main layers. The first layer of the endocardium is the endocardium itself. So the endothelial layer. So let's visualize it here very well. So we are going to have this space which is closest, the layer which is closest, which is in contact with the blood inside, is the endocardium, is the endothelial layer. The next layer is the subendothelial connective tissue, which is seen here. The subendothelial connective tissue, and the last layer, the innermost layer of the endocardium, is going to be the subendocardium. So you can visualize here. So this is the endocardium. All this is the endocardium. Now we start with the endothelial layer. Endothelial layer is far inside. Then we have the endothelial connective tissue, and then you have the subendothelial connective tissue, and then we have the subendocardium. So all this is considered. And then in the subendothelial connective tissue, we have now the Purkinje fiber system, 5 fibers located there. Now, how are the Purkinje fiber? Purkinje fiber have a clearer cytoplasm. They have one nuclei, as you can see here. They are very large. They are large. They have one nuclei. So they are not very pink. Why? Because they have fewer myofibrils. They are not very pink because they have fewer.
Junior, tu voulais faire un truc? Tu voulais faire un truc?
Le problème, si ça installe encore, ça semble éteint.
Ta machine s'est agitée.
Ça m'énerve, ça m'énerve, ça n'a pas été clair. C'est un seul. Il n'est pas appelé Tiji, il vient, moi je vois lui. Oh.
So sorry for this interruption. I'm very sorry for that. Now we have the next part So these are all the elements found here. So the next thing to visualize in the heart is the cardiac valves. So in this diagram is the diagram of the aortic valve. You need to know that the cardiac valve, the two extreme layers of the cardiac valve, you have the endothelium, so the endothelial layer. Then later on inside you have the spongosa at the uppermost part, which is closer to the atrium. So you see the close part to the atrium is the spongosa. Now the part which is closer to the ventricle is the ventricularis, so which is deep to the endothelial layer. And then in the middle now of the valves, we have now the fibrosa layer. So this is generally the diagram of a cardiac valve. So now the next one now is the clinical correlation. So the clinical correlation of the cardiac valve is that there are generally three main diseases affecting the valves. You have the calcific aortic valve disease, you have valvulitis, you have rheumatic heart disease. With calcific aortic valve disease, you're going to see calcification in the histologic section. Valvulitis, you're going to see exudations in the histologic section. And then rheumatic heart disease, you're going to visualize now vegetations on the histologic sections. Now we have the myocardial clinical correlation. Now we have myocardial infarction. Myocardial infarction, also known as heart attack, it is occurring when the blood supply to the heart is impaired, partially or completely impaired. Maybe due to arteriosclerosis, or maybe due to a rupture of an arteriosclerotic plaque. Now the histologic section, you can visualize necrotic cardiac muscles, and then they have remaining normal cells. Addition to that, we are going to see signs of inflammation also, but this inflammation is going to be sterile inflammation, sign of sterile inflammation, where you are going to visualize you have early changes, you have edema. The early change, you have edema, hypereosinophilia. That's the first thing. The second thing, now we have infiltration of neutrophils, coagulation, necrosis, phagocytosis of the dead cells by macrophages, and then you have formation of granulation tissue. Ultimately, we have the formation of dense collagen scar at the end. So, but at the beginning, we just have necrosis, that's coagulation necrosis, with infiltrations, with also some normal cardiac muscle cells. Now we are finishing now with the heart. Then we are going now to visualize the blood vessels. So generally, the blood vessels is divided into, these are the arterial blood vessels, and this is the general diagram for the venous blood vessels. For the arterial blood vessels, we have the tunica, intima. All of them have intima, media, and adventitia. In the intima, we have the first one, you have the endothelial cells, then you have the subendothelial layer, then you have the internal elastic laminae, based on which arterial blood vessel you're speaking about. Then you have the circular small muscles, you have the external elastic lamina, still based on which arterial blood vessel you're speaking about. Then we have the connective tissue and the fibroblasts in the tunica adventitia. Now for the general diagram of the venous system, we have endothelial cell layer, we have subendothelial layer, we have the circular smooth muscles. So circular smooth muscles is located, the connective tissue located in tunica media, and then tunica adventitia. We have the longitudinal smooth muscle, we have connective tissue with fibroblasts. Now the next thing to visualize is these are the various diagrams for the arterial venous system and the capillary system. So this is the various diagram for arterial system. We have the large arteries. Generally, this is a schematic diagram. Medium arteries, generally this is a schematic diagram. Small arteries, this is it, arterioles. Large veins, generally this is a schematic diagram. Medium veins, this. Small veins, this. Venous, this. And then you have continuous capillaries. Generally, this is this. The finichated capillaries, this. You can see finichation here, and then discontinuous or sinusoidal capillaries. You can see all this. You're going to visualize more in depth later. So let's start. In the arterial system, so this is the representation of large arteries. Large arteries are also referred to as elastic arteries. Now, we need to point out the fact that in elastic arches, they are mostly located at the ones which are closest to the heart, so they are going to withstand a very high heart pressure. So since they are going to withstand such a pressure, they need to have elastic laminae all through. That is why their connective tissue is the elastic connective tissue that is going to have many elastic laminae, as you can see in the tunica media. So starting with, you have this tunica intima having the endothelial layer and then the subendothelial layer, as you can see here. So the subendothelial layer is the one which is in blue. Then you have the tunica media. So the tunica media, you see it consists of many elastic lamellae. These wave-like structures like that are many elastic lamellae, as you can see here, which are the major part of the elastic arch or the large arch. Then you can see just some small layers of smooth muscles. The smooth muscles are not quite much here. And then you also have at the connective tissue layer. So you have the connective tissue layer in the tunica adventitia, which is above here. Now the next one you can visualize also. So in the large arches, you don't forget to mention the fact that you can also see some small blood vessels which are called vasa vasorum located. These are some vasa vasorum which are nerves, vasa nerva, which are vasa nervosa, which are located in the connective tissue area. Since they are very large, the blood which is at the center cannot pass all through this layer. So the blood which is at the center may be supplying the cells which are closest to the lumen, and then these vasa vasorum are going to supply the cells which are going to be further away from the lumen. Since they are very large, they have a very thick wall, they need to have vasa vasorum and vasa nerva in order to supply these blood vessels. Now this is the histologic view. So that one was the schematic view. Now this is the histologic view. In the histologic view, while using the elastic stain, through the elastic stain you realize that what is going to stain the elastic lamellae dark. So you can see elastic lamellae quite easily with the elastic stain. So this is why we are going to see dark all through the tunica intima, media, and then the tunica adventitia. Now this is the large artery now with the hematoxylin and eosin stain. But with the hematoxylin and eosin stain, you don't visualize actually well the elastic laminae. You just visualize small lines, but that's not easy to distinguish. So when you want to see the hematoxylin stain, is mostly going to be used in order to distinguish the smooth muscle cells. So you see the layers of smooth muscle cells, and each layer of smooth muscle cells is going to be separated by a layer of the elastic lamellae. Are you getting? And then at the end, at the tunica adventitia, you can also visualize the vasa vasorum and the vasa nerva, which are going to be located there with the when we are going to visualize with the hematoxylin and eosin stain. Now this is now a representation of the medium arches. So the representation of the medium arches here, you still have the tunica intima with the subendothelial layer. You have the endothelial layer and the subendothelial layer. Now we need to know that outside now we have the tunica media. See, these arches are also called muscular arches. That's why you see that the tunica media here contain many layers of smooth muscles. Is it clear? Now in this case, we also have elastic lamellae, but the elastic lamellae are not going to be much. We only have 2 layers of elastic lamellae as compared to the large arches. So here we have only the internal elastic laminar layer, and we have the external elastic lamellae layer. So those are the 2 main parts where we have the elastic lamellae. So you have your tunica media, then you have the internal elastic lamellae inside, then which is on the tunica, still on the tunica media. So this is the intima, then the media having the internal elastic lamellae with multiple layers of smooth muscles, which can be varying from 6 to 40 layers, depending on the smooth muscles we are involved with. Then we have now the tunica adventitia, which consists of the external elastic lamellae and then the connective tissue. Is it clear? So now this is just a histologic section of with the hematoxylin and eosin stain. So here of seal of the medium arch, you can see the lumen, then you have the tunica intima, then you have the tunica media. So you can visualize the internal elastic lamellae inside here. So you visualize the internal elastic lamina. These are the layer of the smooth muscles. Then you have the external elastic lamina. I can see here on the tunica adventitia. So now we have, this is the next diagram still. So you see the tunica intima closer to the lumen, tunica media and tunica adventitia, as you can visualize here. So we have the subendocardium, we have the internal elastic lamina when we increase the magnification, and there you're going to have the external elastic lamina. So the damage to the endothelial cell can, in clinical correlation, is that the damage to the endothelial cell can lead to various types of cardiovascular disease such as atherosclerosis or arteriosclerosis. You need to know that what generally when you say sclerosis just means rigidity. So when I say arteriosclerosis, like when it is written like that, it means that it is rigidity of a blood vessel which is due to an atheroma. Now if I write artero, means that I write A-R-T-E-R-O, sclerosis. That arteriosclerosis is just a rigidity of artery. Is it clear? So but this one, which is atherosclerosis, is rigidity of artery due to an atheroma. Now and what is an atheroma? An atheroma is just a multiple collection of fatty substances, fatty or lipid-like substances. Now arteriosclerosis is just rigidity now of the arterioles. So this is arteriosclerosis, rigidity of the arterioles. Now the next thing, that this is now a transmission electron micrograph of still the blood vessels. So you can visualize here you have the external elastic lamina, which can be very well seen. So normally, as you can see here, you cannot easily see the external internal elastic lamina. So to visualize, you can use the electron micrograph. So you can visualize with the external. So you have the internal elastic lamina, you can well visualize it here. You have the endothelial layer and the subendocardium, the heterocyclic lumen. So here you can see these are the small muscles with many rough endoplasmic reticulum inside. So these are the small muscles which are here. And then if you increase the section of the smooth muscles, you're going to see that it has a basal lamina and the small muscles are connected to each other. And then inside we have the dense body, and also we have the dense body, and you have the different dense structures which are going to be used in the contraction of the small muscle with the capsulosis. And then at the external layer we have now the external elastic lamina. So this is the diagram. Now this is scanning electron micrograph, where you can visualize now the apical part of this, the surface of this scanning electron micrograph. You can visualize the surface of small muscles, visualize the surface of the different of the erythrocyte, the surface of small muscles, and then the surface of the external elastic lamina, and the internal elastic lamina and external elastic lamina. So now the next, this is a representation now of an arteriole. So the representation of arteriole, see, I have the internal elastic lamina in this case, but you don't have an external elastic lamina in the representation of an arteriole. So this is small artery. In the representation of small artery, sorry, you have internal elastic lamina. We don't have external elastic lamina. You have multiple small muscles layer, and then you have the connective tissue layer in the tunica adventitia. Now in the endothelial layer, you realize that what the tunica intima is going to be very small, only made up of the arterioles. The tunica intima is very small, only made up of the endothelial cells. Then the tunica media is only made up of the muscular cell, and the tunica adventitia is only made up of tissue of connective tissue that's going to help in adhesions to the tissues close to the arterioles. Now these are the small arch of the small intestine. So you can visualize this as small arch of small intestine, this is small arch of the small intestine. This one, the lumen is not going to be regular, so this one is more of a vein than an artery. This is an arterioles. Arterioles are quite smaller than these small arteries. Is it clear? Now you visualize here that this section, now you increase the section, you see we have the internal elastic lamina on the small artery, you have nuclei of the smooth muscles here, as you can visualize, and then you have the connective tissue layer in the tunica adventitia. So that is for the small artery. Now the arterioles. So how is the arteriole? So for the arterioles, you only have in the tunica intima, you only have one layer of endothelial cells. Then the tunica media, we have layers of the smooth muscles, and then the adventitia, we only have one layer of connective tissue. So this is a diagram of an arteriole. So the diagram of an arteriole, this is going to, for you to visualize more the arteriole. You have the you can also have internal elastic lamellae inside the arterioles, but this is not seen on a microscopic section. It is only when you have the transmission electron micrograph that you can visualize now that there is internal elastic lamellae. This is the endothelial smooth muscle junction. Actually, the two cell junction are in contact with a small internal elastic lamellae, because internal elastic lamellae is not quite much. Small internal elastic lamellae. You have nucleus of endothelial cells here, and then you have the nucleus of the smooth muscle with the nucleus of the Schwann cells. The Schwann cells, which are overlying the nerve that is going to supply the arterioles, are these ones. Now this diagram is much more is the state, the arteriole, which is in a relaxed state. So this is the internal elastic lamellae. You can visualize the nucleus of endothelial cells and the nucleus of the smooth muscles. Now, what is the clinical correlation of this? So the clinical correlation, you have coronary atherosclerosis. As I've already told you, this is rigidity of the coronary artery due to an atheroma. So that's easy as that, and this is going to be characterized by a reduction of blood flow into the coronary artery, which supplies the heart. Now, the histologic section of of coronary artery atherosclerosis, what is going to visualize? You are going to visualize a narrow lumen. You visualize a narrow lumen. You visualize fibrous thickening of the tunica intima in order to stabilize the central lipid core with cholesterol cleft that can be seen on the histology section. And then you can see the other elements like the internal elastic lamellae, the tunica media, and then the tunica adventitia. Now, polyarteritis nodosa, it's a form of vasculitis in the small arteries. So polyarteritis is a multisystemic necrotizing vasculitis of small and medium-sized muscular arteries involving the renal and the visceral arteries is characterized. Now, the classic polyarteritis nodosa usually spare the pulmonary arteries. All the other are going to be involved except the pulmonary arteries, and then it is usually associated with the hepatitis B infection in 20 to 30% of cases. Now, on the histologic section, what are you going to visualize on polyarteritis nodosa? You see fibrous thickening of the tunica intima. You see diminished lumen of the small vessel, and then you see disrupted internal elastic lamellae with the inflammatory cells like leukocytes. Now, the next thing to visualize still on cardiovascular system is going to be the capillary system. So the capillary system is going to be divided into three. We have continuous capillaries, as you can see here. So these are arterioles and these are capillaries. Capillaries is only made up of one cell layer, and that cell layer is the endothelial cell layer. So this one is made up of multiple cell layers, and this quite small. That's why it's an arteriole. So, but this one is only made up of one cell layer. This one is a capillary. So, and that capillaries, this cell layer is not interrupted at any point. So that's why it's a continuous capillary. So these are continuous capillaries. So this is the electron microscopic view of continuous capillary, where you have here is the endothelial cell layer. So this is the endothelial cell layer. You can also see some smooth muscles. This one is a smooth muscle just close to the endothelial cell layer. So this normally is endothelial cell layer. You can see the basal laminae. If you see capsule, it means that there is a smooth muscle close to this particular capillary, but this capillary is only made up of one cell layer, which is the endothelial cell layer. As you can see here, this is the cell layer here, and this is the erythrocyte. Just like in this one, it is just a specialized capillary which has one smooth muscle, that is apical part here. So with the capsule, as you can see here, these are the this is a basal lamina, which is close to that of which is connected to the surrounding tissue. The intercellular junction now between the smooth muscle and then the endothelial cell. This is still the intercellular junction between smooth muscle and the endothelial cell. Now the financiated capillaries. So this now for financiated capillaries, example of financiated capillaries you have in the kidney, and then we have also you have in the kidney, we have in the pituitary gland. Now we need to know that financiated capillaries have endothelial cells that are perforated by small pores and often bridged by a diaphragm, and the diaphragm is the one that's going to regulate the entry and the exit of material through the fenestration. But we don't have a diaphragm inside the glomerulus of the kidney. It's the exception, but we don't have a diaphragm. So this is a diaphragm. So this is the diagram layer of a financiated capillary in the kidney, so you can visualize here. So you have the glomerular capillaries here, you have the podocytes. So you need to know that generally when you are inside the kidney, we have the endothelial cell layer, we have the membrane, the basement membrane, and then you have the podocyte layer before the blood vessel, before fluid is going to be filtrated into the tubules. Is it clear? So this is the endothelial cells. This is the podocytes, so you can visualize here. Now when you increase the section, you see the endothelial cells here. You can see many dots here. You can visualize many dots on the endothelial cell surface layer, which is going to be said to be the pores. Is it clear? Now you can visualize more of this dot now on the electron microscopic view. So on the electron microscopic view, but this one is the electron microscopic view of a pituitary gland. For electron microscopic view, you're going to visualize this. You see the endothelial cell layer. Now in the endothelial cell layer, we have many pores, some spores on the endothelial cell layer. But now there are bridges of the endothelial cell. The endothelial here, the pores are going to be bridged by the diaphragm because it is a pituitary vessel. So there is a pituitary vessel, that's why the pores are bridged by a diaphragm. But you need to know that in the glomerular blood vessels, there is no diaphragm. There are only pores which are not bridged by any diaphragm. Now the next one is a discontinuous capillary system. Here it's shown in the spleen. So for a discontinuous capillary system, you need to know that the spleen is generally divided into the white bulb and then the red bulb. So this one is going to mostly be seen in the red bulb because it is involved here with the phagocytosis of the dying red blood cells. Is it clear? So you can visualize this is a capillary system which is sinusoidal. Is it clear? So here when the capillary system is sinusoidal, you see there are very big spaces all around the capillary system. So let's visualize the electron microscopic view of this capillary system. So you see there is a big gap here, there is another gap here, there is another gap here. So these are some gaps that you can visualize here. So this is a major gap in the red bulb. So we have the basement membrane. These are the endothelial cell layer with the basement membrane here and the gaps. So close to it you can see some macrophage cells. So this one can be considered as a macrophage. Another one here, a macrophage, and those macrophages are going to engulf now. And this is another monocyte, a macrophage. These are the erythrocyte here. So the macrophages are going to enter into the capillaries, and then they are going to engulf now the malformed red blood cells and then the old red blood cells. Now the next one is a venous system. So this is a representation of the venous system. We start with the venous. So the venous just resembles like the arterioles. It has one layer of the endothelial, and then it has another layer which is the connective tissue. There is no smooth muscle layer. You only have an endothelial cell layer, and then you have connective tissue. No smooth muscle. Now the small vessels, for the small veins, we have one cell layer which is the endothelial layer, and then we have one cell layer for the smooth muscle, and then we have a small cell layer for the connective tissue. As you can visualize here, this is a venule. So the venule here, you only see it's large, and then you have one cell layer of the endothelial layer, and then directly you have the connective tissue around. This one is a venule. Now this is the smooth muscle. When you see smooth muscle around, it means it's an arteriole. So as you can visualize here, so this is still another section of a small vein with a hematoxylin is using. So with this is a small vein. Here you're going to have one cell layer of endothelial layer, then you have another cell layer with a smooth muscle cell layer, and then you have the connective tissue layer around it. So this is another cell. We have one cell layer of the endothelium, then you have a smooth muscle cell layer, and then you have connective tissue layer. So for the clinical coordination is that what you need to know that inflammation usually occurs in the post-capillary system, in the post-capillary blood vessel, that is the venous one, the post-capillary part, and then the small veins. So here the clinical coordination is going to be made mostly based on exudation, and exudation is referred to the escape of both blood fluids and protein from the lumen of the blood vessels in a response of an inflammation in one part of the body. Is it clear? Now we have now transudation. Transudation fluid, this one is due to inflammation exudation, while transudation is due to an increase in hydrostatic or an imbalance in hydrostatic pressure and oncotic blood pressure of the oncotic pressure of the blood vessels. Is it clear? For transudation is due to an imbalance of hydrostatic pressure and oncotic pressure of the blood vessel, while exudation is due to inflammatory processes that occur somewhere with the vasodilation, increase in the space of the capillaries and all that. That result to now escape of blood fluid and proteins into the interstitial space. Now this is a representation of medium veins. So for the representation of medium veins, you still have the tunica intima. So for the tunica intima, you have one cell layer of the endothelial layer cells. You have the smooth muscle cell layer, which is the tunica media, and then you also have the subendocardium at the level of the tunica intima. Then lastly, you have the tunica externa. Now the specific characteristic of inside the veins is that tunica at external adventitia consists of the longitudinal smooth muscle. These are the longitudinal smooth muscle you can visualize here. Now these are the medium veins. So these are the medium veins you visualize. So here is the tunica intima, this is the lumen, the tunica intima, the tunica media made up of small muscle cell layer, and then the tunica adventitia with the longitudinal muscles. As you can see here, the muscles, the small muscles are going to be here, but they are going to in the longitudinal direction, while here they are going to be in the circular direction. Now medium arteries now still with hematoxylin using stain. So this one is a medium artery and this one is a medium vein. So medium vein, we see it is much more of an irregular size. So you visualize here, these are the veins here. So this is the general diagram constituting all of them. Now this is the representation of a large vein. So for large veins, you have the tunica intima. We have the tunica intima with the endothelial and the subendothelial layer. We have the tunica media, which is made up of the smooth, more circular smooth muscle layer. We have the tunica externa or the tunica adventitia. So for the tunica adventitia is made up of the smooth muscle. The tunica adventitia is going to be made up of the longitudinal smooth muscle, as you can visualize here. So that's it, and then we see the collagen fibers and all that. So then the next one now is going to be the large vein. So since this is the histologic section, so this is the histologic section. So for the histologic section, you can visualize inside the tunica intima with the subendothelial layer. Then we have the tunica media with the smooth muscle layer. Then we have the tunica adventitia, which is made up of the longitudinal muscles. So, and then also at the end part of the tunica adventitia, we have the vasa vasorum, and this is a specific characteristic of large vein comparing it to small vein. So large vein mostly have vasa vasorum, and then they have a very large adventitia. So while the small veins will have a small adventitia and more of the tunica media. So this is large veins still. So we can see intima with the internal elastic lamellae. We have the circular small muscle in the media. Then we have the connective tissue layer in the tunica adventitia, and then we have the longitudinal small muscle that you can see here. Now, if you want to have a brief view on the generalities of this, you can just pause and then you look the different example of the blood vessels characteristics. Now we have the lymphatic vascular system. For the lymphatic vascular system, we have small lymphatic vessels which is made up of the lymph nodes. So the lymphatic vascular system is composed of the lymphatic, as I've already said, lymphatic capillaries, lymphatic vessels, and then lymphatic ducts. So these are the small lymphatic vessels that you see here. You see some valves located there. You have the small arches, but I want to see mostly the vessels. These are the lymphatic vessels you can see, and then the valves located at the apical layer as they are passing. And then the next one we have coagulated. This is for coagulated blood. These are still lymphatic vessels here, as you can visualize. These are lymphatic vessels here, and then they are going to drain into lymph nodes. We have some coagulated plasma close around. So now the clinical correlation, there is a lymphangioma, and lymphangioma is a congenital malformation of the lymphatic system that involves the skin and the subcutaneous tissue. It occurs mostly on the head and the neck. So what you are going to see on a lymphangioma mass, you visualize many lymphatic vessels that you can see here, and you can also see many lymphatic capillaries here. So those are the different things that you can visualize on that. So from here we are finished with the circulatory system. We now go to the next part, which is the lymphoid system. Thanks for your attention.